Hello, welcome to Overcoming Adversity podcast with me, Amanda Marino, and my dear friends and colleagues and executives of my company, Next Level Recovery Associates, Sarah Frias.
Hi.
And Matt Williams. Love for you guys to say hi, and then we're going to go into interviewing Matt today.
Sarah.
No, I had nodded you first.
Head nod. My name is Matt Williams. I'm the Chief Heart Officer for Next Level Recovery Associates. Grateful to be here, and thank you for the intro. Sarah?
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm the Executive Director at Next Level Recovery Associates, and I am too grateful to be here.
Love it.
Sarah, what's your Instagram? Because I forgot to ask on our last episode, so I don't want to leave you out.
If everybody wants to be my friend on Instagram,
Follow.
Please follow. It's Sarah E. Frias.
Yeah, Sarah loves the random creeper messages.
No, I don't.
So please DM her.
No, don't do that.
So this is our second episode of Next Level. This is our second episode of relaunching the Overcoming Adversity podcast with the three of us. And this episode, we want to highlight Matt Williams because, who better? I could go on an intro, and I love doing it, embarrassing him. I think you like it in some ways and hate it in others. Let's be real. So Matt is the founder and creator of FRO Pro. Matt has a double master's degree in counseling and education. Matt has run marathons for Reebok, is a golf model, has pickleball tournaments, has a nonprofit that he just relaunched, the FRO Pro Foundation, which Matt, really want to, I've thought about it. It's come to me. I really want to be part of and support. So just on a side note, we'll discuss that later. Has a beautiful wife, Chelsea. Literally is one of the, and I admire and love this about him because I'm so not this way, is so structured and, very consistent. And I have like a different version of flexible structure that works for me. And sometimes it doesn't. But I love that about you, Matt. And, I just think that, I told you last week, your greatest asset with working for us is not just your skills and what you do for the clients, it's who you are. Who you are is the most valuable asset to me in my life. And so what would you like to say about Matt, Sarah? I'm sure you could say some nice things.
Speak, woman.
Let's think about this now. Matt is just a amazing, genuine person. Not even just working side to side, just, watching him as a male in recovery. And Amanda always says, like, the recovery,
Mr. Delray
recovery, which he hates that.
He
and
does,
I think
but he likes
funny.
it too.
I don't know. I don't see him that way. I see him just as like someone who is just if I was a guy that was trying to get sober, he's someone that I would definitely look up to. And I look up to him as a female in recovery.
You can talk to him. You don't have to talk to me. You look up to you.
I know, but he makes me nervous. No, I'm just kidding.
That's me.
He's well-versed and like well-rounded in everything he does. You're always on time. I'm
always late.
Punctual.
You are punctual, and that's a big thing for me.
Yep.
How do you guys tolerate me?
We just know Matt comes 15 minutes late usually, just because he knows you're going to be late.
I'm not 15 minutes. I'm between 5 and 10. It's usually around 7.
Yeah.
I have it down to an art.
Yeah, no, you're good. We're on time.
But we're not talking about me.
No. It's not about you today, Amanda. It always is, though. I just think that watching Matt every day with his clients, with his business, as a friend, and also even like on a separate note, like how he is with Chelsea and the love he shows for her is amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful to witness. A man that's not scared to show his love.
He's never afraid to show his feelings, which if you met him,
you would not think that.
But he's actually the opposite of that. And that's why I appreciate it.
Thank you. Wow. Quite an intro.
Thanks.
Yeah, we could go on and on, but this,
that's
enough.
Very nice of you both to say. I appreciate that.
So when you think of adversity, or what you want to share with our listeners that may help people, in the mental health addiction space, whether it's been before getting sober, what comes to mind and comes to heart first for you?
Man, I think anything that presents a challenge to people and working through it, everybody has their challenges, whether it's, family, friends, loved ones, their own personal struggles, what they go through, emotional sobriety, physical sobriety, all those those points of life that get ruined by drugs and alcohol. So I think in overcoming adversity, it's, focus on one thing, like a little bit at a time. And I think as being a sober man now, almost 14 years,
It's amazing.
it's a lot more about emotional sobriety today. Like the thought of drinking and drugging is not really a thing. And, and none of the things I'm going to say are unique to me or something I made up. It was usually like the guys that came before me and the people that were sober before me that kind of shared these things. And a lot of it is like, one guy that's got some time, we talks about that emotional hula hoop, and like, you can only really react and act within your own hula hoop around you, to situations. And, whether it's addiction, codependency, family, any of these issues that come up. So I think a lot of that is my own thoughts and recognizing that the disease isn't like, hey, let's get a drink or a drug. It's, hey, let's fuck this up or stir this up or react to something that you have no business reacting to, or inserting yourself into a situation that you have no business inserting yourself to.
Yes.
And those are the things for me that are the most challenging, because, no one likes unsolicited opinions. I try to be as helpful as possible, realize that people may not want that unless they ask for it. And I think, it's like when it comes down to relationships and friendships, and I've had this conversation with, sober men and around the same time period, it's things change.
Things change. That's tough for us.
Really hard as a sensitive guy and somebody that's like, you do things for people because you love them, and you can't expect your how you treat people to be, reciprocated. And you don't do things for reciprocation. You do things for the sake of doing them, and that you love that person, and you can't expect anything back. And that expectations and those thoughts of like, well, I did, just that disease of being like, yep, you're a loser, or yep, why did you do that, or why did you extend yourself, or
so beating up on yourself.
Yeah.
Is kind of what I'm, because you're talking a little bit in generalities, and I want you to get a little bit
you want
more
me to
deep.
You want me to go?
I want you to deepen it. And this is the thing, like with relationships, like, yes, we should not have expectations. We can't expect people to be like us. However, when you are in a long-term friendship relationship with people, I mean, it's okay to want to have that reciprocated. It's okay to want to have that same respect that you give to people. So where I think you and I have connected and related is like we struggle with that. Like it's hard for us.
Yeah.
We give our heart and our 110, and that's not always met consistently very often.
Yeah. And everybody has their own stuff, right?
Of course.
Everybody has lives. Some people's lives change where, they may not be, practicing a sober lifestyle anymore, which is fine. If that works for them, or they get married and move away, or they get married and they have kids, or, they start a new business, or they just move away in general. And it's like, they're not in the day to day. And, there's definitely been relationships in my life where it's like, man, like this really sucks, and putting effort in. And it's just not, sometimes it just can't be because people aren't in the place too. And then
they're not capable.
And then I go to that place of like, well, what happened? Like,
what did I do wrong?
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
And like, did I
is
do
it
something
I
wrong?
did?
And
Or
it's
what's
like
wrong
that,
with me?
right? Like that trauma of like whatever. And again, speaking with people that have some time and whatnot, like, one of the people in my life was like, you're at where you're at in your sobriety. You've worked really hard to enjoy this life and to continue to work hard and enjoy the things that warrant living a good life and the things that you like to do and the schedule you like to keep. And other people might not align with that, or other people might think you're too intense, or other people just may not call or may not include you because of they think you're too busy and why would I waste my time? And that's where I kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, if people ask me, I'll make time for them.
Yeah.
Totally. That people think that about me too. They tell Sarah all the time they don't want to bother me. I'm too busy. And I'm like,
Right. And
I'm not. Listen, we are busy,
Yeah.
but what we want to show up for, we will make time for.
Right. And it all comes down to priorities, and it's from the basic day to anything. When you have a full day, it's what's a priority, what's not. And when you don't feel like you're a priority in other people's lives that you've made a priority, it can fucking suck.
Can you get a little deeper with that? Can you go into some like more specifics? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's still you're getting there. You're getting deeper, and I'm feeling you. But I want to know, like, this is going to help people because we all struggle with this.
Sure. So let's just say you help someone and you just know someone, you get introduced to someone and they're in early sobriety. and you go, just like was done for me, I go to any length to include that person and introduce that person, and they're part of your day to day because you want them to meet and understand how great sobriety is and the community is, the fitness is, and the pickleball, the golf, whatever it is, all these activities that are, hey, we don't need to drink and drug anymore. And you introduce everybody. And for a while, it's great because it's like you see them starting to see how possible it is and how great life can be. And then what you want to happen is that person to develop into their own person and to be their own sober person and to develop a life and hopefully be included in it.
Yeah.
And when you're not included in it, or you go from, being involved in the day-to-day to maybe a conversation once a week to once a month to, hey, I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah. That's hard.
It's tough to work through. Like, I mean, I can think of a specific example of someone that helped me immensely that I grew up with long time ago when I got sober, and I don't have a relationship with that person anymore. And I'm not really sure what happened. I have my thoughts, but there was no, and it hurts still. Like, it took me a while to process it, but at the same time, I'm like, but I also realized, like, life is life and people have busy lives. And when you start doing different things and having kids and, and then you move away, it's like, when you're not in the day-to-day, it's not that it's not a caring thing. It's just, life, it's different.
We were talking about this yesterday, the reason, season, and the lifetime. Like, that's one of the hardest things for me to grasp. Now, question, in those situations, do you address it? Do you say, hey, I noticed we're getting distant, or like, I miss our bond. I miss like our day-to-day. Like, can we get together? Like,
I think it definitely comes down to an emotional maturity on both parts. And some people might, it's kind of like an amends, right? Like some people, I've definitely reached out to people like, hey, I'm not ready to do this yet. And I've had to respect that. And like, hopefully they will. And some time goes by and then they're ready.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm still ready at that point to do that. But
because then you feel like at some point
I usually like to address it because I don't, personally, what I have to work on is, like some things are going to be unresolved.
Totally.
And it's totally out of my control, but I will make an attempt to clean up my side or address this like, hey, here's what I noticed going on. Here's my interpretation of it.
Right.
Is there some truth to this, or is this am I blowing this? Is my intuition off?
Right.
And usually it's not off.
Yeah.
And there's something going on, and some people aren't ready to discuss it, and some people are like, oh no, and they kind of like slough it off. And then I realized, okay, great. Like, I'm never going to be able to have a deep conversation about this or address this. And I have to be okay with that. And I have to work through that. Yeah. And, and some it's quick and some it's not. And some I have to pray on and journal about and meditate on. And, at the end of the day, those are the things that the emotional side of things and the spiritual side of things, like where it's just like, it is what it is. And, if it happens to come up and can be and have an opportunity to be addressed, great. If not, I have to be okay with saying that's great too.
Yeah, no, definitely. This has come up a lot.
We can both relate.
Yeah. This has definitely come up a lot for both of us lately. And it's sometimes I feel like this divine intervention of like, hey, Amanda, even though you want to reach out and fix this, it's not best for them right now.
Sure.
And like, I know that and I don't force it. Then there's other times where I want to find a million ways to make it better after addressing it for a decade, of like anytime there would be distance, I'd be the one to bring it back together. Then you kind of get exhausted with that, right? Like, no, now you need to come to me.
Yeah,
like
you reach a level of exhaustion where, and it might never come back and or it comes back, hey man, where you been? You know where the fuck I've been. I haven't.
I'm always here.
I'm
still here. Yeah,
I'm still here. And like, if you want to address something, great. If you don't, great. And that's the thing is being okay. And like I said, and then I try to, and then I look at it, I'm like, man, am I being selfish? And is this a selfish behavior? Does this have to be about me? But when it's a relationship and it changes, whether it's long standing for years or a shorter one or one that you thought was more than it was, like a little bit of clarity goes a long way.
Totally. But you just but not everyone's capable of that.
Correct. So that's one of those things where you just keep it moving. But
it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. right?
No, of course not. No, I'm not
hurts
saying
so
it doesn't.
bad.
Yeah.
Like you have some experience.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask. I mean, I never had, I guess, girlfriends before I got into recovery.
Sure.
I just didn't have friends, I guess, in general because I was using.
I don't think any of us like.
I mean,
well, you did.
There
but
are people. I know a
had
lot of
some,
people.
but-
I have one from like when I was little, but other than that, any friendship, and I have to say, like Amanda knows, I keep my circle very small. My friendships I have are few and amazing, right? But I had one that I don't want to get into it too much, but I had my first son, and I thought this person would be the person that was like my person, right?
Sure.
I had that expectation that they were going to be there when times were tough as a new mother, and they weren't.
Of course.
And I was pissed.
Of course.
That hurts.
I was pissed,
Yeah.
like crying. I mean, it was harder than, and I know you've been with Chelsea the whole time you've been in recovery,
Yeah.
but like it actually was harder for me than getting out of a romantic relationship.
Oh yeah, friendship breakups are way more painful for me than most romantic.
Yeah. So I mean, I worked on it a lot, and I mean, we've both spoken, and we were at different places, and kind of just moving forward. And I don't like having any negative feelings towards people, especially as the person I am today. So we haven't spent time together. I still appreciate the friendship that was there before.
Right.
But I think we're also just at different spots now.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So I was going to ask, has anybody come back into your life kind of in that type of situation?
Or come back and brought it back like full throttle.
Yeah.
Whether you just came back civilly and made peace, or like came back and were like better than ever.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the first one that I used as an example, I made peace with it. It took me a while. I made peace with it and figured it out. And it's interesting when you have someone, and you're still close with some people that you grew up with that are in the sober community. And it's like,
You have a lot of that.
yeah. And, it's like, do you talk to so-and-so? Or they'd be like, have you talked? I'm like, no, I don't really have a relationship with him, and I wish him the best.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to,
Yeah.
because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think, like I said, people I've reached out to either make amends to for my behavior in the past, or people that have come back around again. Like, unfortunately, there's a guy that, I got sober with that's still struggling. And
But do people
constitutionally incapable. And like, I made it very clear, like, dude, I'm here to help you. I love you. And like, until you're ready to do this, like, I'm never going to lend you money. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do that. You know where I'm at if you need it. And, he's got a friend that reached out. He's like, I'm struggling with this. And I said, you have to make a decision to be as loving as you are and helpful as you are, regardless, because he helped you. And I remember you coming down here.
Totally.
And now you're married with 2 kids, and he's doing what he's been doing since, you guys were teenagers.
Yeah.
And you guys are in your 30s now.
Yeah.
I was like, so you have to you have to be okay with being like, I'm here to help you. And he's like, well, God forbid something happens. I was like, if something happens and he chooses to do something to himself, then that's his decision.
Yeah.
And you can't stop that.
Yeah.
And you can't get anyone sober.
But have you had someone come back that realized that they like weren't the best to you and like said, hey, Matt, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like that. Because I feel like that's happened to me many times.
I have had people
like,
be like, hey, I was in a bad spot, or,
I was not a good
hey, this is a
friend.
misunderstanding, and I didn't know how to process it or whatever. I definitely had that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that feels kind of
right.
good.
It feels great. And there's, and it's acknowledging it and having that conversation and getting to is great. There are parts where it's like, hey, fuck off, but like that doesn't do anything either. And it's like, why am I going to react and do that when I know if I act accordingly in the principles and how I operate with integrity and hear that person out, we may not be friends or we may not have a conversation.
Right,
and some have come back and we've addressed the situation and don't talk again.
Totally.
And some
but the audacity
start to talk again and spend some time with each other.
Yeah. The courage and the audacity that it takes in this modern day age to pick up a phone and call someone that you know that you weren't a good friend to or weren't a good person and apologize. Like, I may not jump back into the hula hoop with them.
Right.
But that takes a lot of courage.
Sure. 100%.
And I honor
appreciate
that and appreciate it. So
100%.
yeah, no, it's definitely one of the hardest things I've had to navigate. Like I didn't have, really with relationships and marriages and things like that except for one of them and, the past few years have been pretty, like romantic ones are easier for me to part from, but it's those friendships because I'm all in and like I want everyone to stay who's in my heart once you're in there to stay forever and nothing to ever change. And that's not realistic, right?
No.
The more you up level your life, the smaller your circle gets. When you have changes like marriage, children, business, whatever it is.
Moving, like he said, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's so
Time
many.
is limited.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get a certain amount of hours a day and, like I said, we walk out of here and, not exist tomorrow.
Yeah.
Totally.
And,
This
it's
is it.
like, what am I doing today? Am I doing everything I want? And that you hear that question, it's like, you have, 3 days to live. How are you going to choose that? Most people's answers are the same. Some might be a little different, but like you're going to try to spend as much time with the people that you love and doing the things that you love because you have 3 days left.
Absolutely. And I don't want to have, in those 3 days, I don't want to have any negative vibes towards anyone. Like I want to clear the air. Like one person I didn't get to clear the air with, passed away, a few months ago. And that was awful. Like I wish I would have been able to just have that conversation. Cause I was a drug induced, not reality kind of thing. But, I want to have just peace and love. And like, even the people that have done me dirty, like I truly do wish them the best. Or if someone has not come along my journey, like, I'm sure as you've become more successful and grown as a person, sometimes that's hard for people to have in their circle too.
100%. Yeah. I think this would be a totally different podcast, a different topic, but I think when you're on the come up,
Yeah.
and you're trying something that is really challenging or hard, or doing something that most people, poke holes in or whatever, play the devil's advocate, they're cheering for you. And then I think when you start to experience success, like, okay, like still cool, like a little clap.
Yeah.
And then whether they know it or not, they almost take advantage of your generosity
Oh yeah.
and or count like what you have or how you do things. And it's like, I want people to change. I want people to be successful and regardless. And I came from a really nice childhood and my parents did everything they could for me, but I also lived around a lot of people that had a lot of things that I didn't. And, like Chelsea's like, oh, you have their chip on that shoulder. And I'm just like, there's a different story. It's like when I hear, again, another topic about another time is like, you talk to a lot of people that did some illegal shit down here.
Yeah.
Or did some gnarly shit.
Yeah.
And now they're like Robin Hood and they're like giving back. And it's like, you're giving back with the money that you robbed people of.
Yeah.
And
Shady
making
motherfucker.
yourself looking like a good guy.
Please.
Like if you were to say, yeah, I messed up and I did this, this, and this, and now I turned it around, I'd be like, amen. I appreciate that
Yeah,
honesty.
the honesty.
Yeah.
But don't be like, yo, I can't.
We all know.
Like, and that for me, and even it's like kids that, I know people, it's like the inheritance is the thing. It's like, that's awesome. Like, but when you're like, yeah, I started from the bottom. No, motherfucker, you did not.
Yeah.
You did not start from the bottom.
No, I
You did
legit
not-
lived in the hood.
Yeah, like
got my car shot.
Just be honest. It's like, yeah, it's like if you get it's just, and again, none of it's public knowledge in some places, and other places it's like, if you did it from truly nothing, that's remarkable. But if you're telling people you did it from nothing and you were handed a fucking safety net or
just keep it real.
oh yeah, it's just like, just be
real.
honest. Yeah, I was really fortunate. Like it was so sad. My grandfather died and gave me this, or my sister passed away and left us this, or my
and
dad.
both are beautiful.
It's a
coming from
beautiful
nothing or
thing.
coming from handed to, but just
100%.
own it. Right?
Right.
Don't
So
don't
it's-
be the bullshit.
Right, and that to me is one of the harder things that I got to work on. Was
Nothing cringes me more than when someone puts a picture of themselves on a private
Yeah,
jet.
but-
I've been on
but-
private jets and I will
but-
never put a picture
I've
up.
never been on a private jet.
But I think it's incredible because those things make you feel important, and I think those things that you appreciate, they appreciate that. That's incredible. Like. That's just be like, yeah, this is a great gift. Like, not like,
Right.
yo, man, I've been working hard at. No, just no.
See, the thing is that you realize that, and my whole thing, and this is another topic we should better write these down, is like social media, because you see it that way, but someone else might see it as like, wow, look at them in their private jet. Like, I don't have a private jet.
Yeah. Oh, and listen, hey,
Or whatever the case may be.
Flying private's pretty damn cool.
It is.
And then you realize how expensive it is, and you're like, that person works their ass off to pay for this because this is not a joke.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what it is about that one. Like, it's like the thing you realize, like, this is, I guess that's the kind of, we could lock it up and like what we can take away and what we can do differently. Like, what does it matter? It just bothers me when people do, but like, what does it matter? It has nothing to do with
No, it has
me.
nothing to do with me.
Right. So what would be your takeaway on this Matt's version of his adversity on, you know, what we can take away from friendship, relationships, shifts, changes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have, from the conversation, we've all been through our struggles with relationships, friendships, you know, whether you're in recovery or not in recovery.
Life.
And it's just, and that's another aspect of like building me as a person and having that forgiveness, even when there isn't an apology, right? And just being a better person than I was.
Integrity.
Yeah, integrity. And I think that's really for me. And on the side note of like the, you know, how people get money and kind of the honesty thing, I really have kind of maneuvered away from, do I look at social media for funny reels and that type of stuff? Absolutely. But I really try not to get any emotional attachment or responses from it. So I feel like I've been really good at it lately because I used to, I think the grass is greener on the other side. Look at these people. They have a beautiful house and all that.
It's always
and
more
it's
behind
bullshit.
that. Yeah, always.
And so I really try to just appreciate my life, my friendships, my relationships, and just be grateful that I am where I'm at today.
Right. Celebrating the things that are in your life rather than looking at the things that aren't.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So Maddie, close us up with your thought for the listeners on like navigating this and like your.
Yeah, I would say, you know, in regards to relationships or the loss of or navigating through that, I just think being honest with yourself, trying to rectify a situation if you have a role in it and you actively did something, and really being honest about
Own
that.
own it.
And own it. And if you can, you know, rectify the situation, and if not, you know, be available to when the time comes, and be okay if the time doesn't come. That would probably be my take on that.
Love it. Thank you for your vulnerability. It took a
Absolutely.
minute to get you to where I was trying to get you to, but we got you there.
I knew what you were trying to do.
She was pushing you.
No,
We did it.
I realized where we were going.
We did it. No, and I think that with the more vulnerable we get, the more we help people. So thank you for that. So thank you all for joining us on our episode of Overcoming Adversity podcast. You can find us on all streaming platforms. You can find Next Level Recovery Associates, who is the sponsor of the Overcoming Adversity podcast, on all social media, nextlevelrecoveryassociates.com. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then I'm Amanda Marino Recovery on all social medias. Sarah?
Oh,
Again,
I'm
2 times in one
Sarah
episode.
E. Frias, Frias. That is my Instagram.
And I am MWAR Williams, MWAR Williams on Instagram.
And I do have an Instagram for Overcoming Adversity podcast, as well as a Facebook page. So I'm going to be working on those to get those current and up to date, because they're kind of
nice.
outdated. I do want to tell you, Sarah, when you talk, you have the cutest little scrunch in your nose.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
so
That's really
cute.
nice.
She talks and her nose just like, especially when she gets, it's just so cute.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
And
that.
sex,
Yeah.
and you're sexy. We had a whole
Yeah.
conversation today about sexy versus
Gross.
cute.
Oh,
Sarah,
wow.
Sarah would
I
rather
don't
be
like
cute.
that. I'd rather be cute.
I'd rather be sexy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think sexy cute works.
Yeah, sexy cute.
Sexy cute.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.